that will raise and lower it, and you will actually see the front section of the ship on camera go underwater as the water pours up on actors.
I think that people need to remember that a lot of what you see in this movie is real people running along a really huge set. Though visual effects might have added a component into the set, basically it's 90% the real deal. Yes, this was back in 96 and 97 when we still did things with real people and real sets.
We designed a series of visual effect shots to take advantage of the big ship set in the later stages of the sinking. By filming a lock-off shot of the tilted main set, which didn't move, and a second shot of the sinking set, we could have ILM digitally combine them into one shot, creating the illusion that the entire ship was sinking while still seeing all of our actors and extras running around on deck without having to use a model or digital people. Since our big set was only tilted at one angle, 6 degrees, we tilted the camera to make it look as if the ship was at a steeper angle. Then, digitally added a new waterline and horizon to disguise the extra camera tilt. We had a full-scale 40-foot truck tank painted up like a funnel that we dropped on the set to create a huge wave to swamp our lifeboats. But we also needed some wider shots with a miniature funnel falling behind and even on some of our characters.
The funnel that was used was 14-foot tall, quarter scale, and the plate that we got was a full down view minus the funnel, in which there was a long, thin splash in the water that was accomplished by a line of primer cord that was detonated in the water. So we had to retrofit our cable to hit that exact spot.
Fabrizio is the one that gets nailed by this smokestack, and there's a whip pan away from him towards this smokestack, and the live action, there's nothing there, it's just black. The problem with the model was the weight. It was up in many hundreds of pounds. We solved some of the weight problem because of the fact that we weren't using any metal other than the framework. Parts that would come close to the camera were done with show card, basically cardboard that was painted, and oddly enough the texture of the show card when it was painted had the same exact feel as the metal would have. There was a little bit of nervousness the first time we did it because we really didn't know how far it was going to fall, how hard it was going to hit.
Everybody okay?
Yeah. We did it several times, and when we did get it, this felt really good because it was all in camera. There was nothing else that needed to be added other than the first part of the shot. Digitally, now it's what's really good is being able to take these two separate pieces of film and put them together and make them seamless.
We're talking about, Charlie, 60-degree water? 60-degree water. Long-term exposure. Again, we have to watch out for the hypothermia.
I don't think you're going to have to tell anybody to get out of the water, John.
I'll be forcing you out of the water.
Okay, so the water's going to come up, follow that post up.
Roll camera. And action!
To a mark that I give you, and dome. Got it. All right? Sure. And let's say the dome cue 3 times. Okay? So they get it absolutely. Action!
The hallway was a lot of fun. I think our mall was probably about 20 or 30 feet long. Even to this day, when I show people pictures, they think it's a real hallway. I said, no, it's only quarter scale. That was really a challenge because it's quite long, and we had to create all these wall panels out of balsa wood and fix them so that they would break realistically. We had some very large drop tanks created so we could drop water and flood it into these things. The camera zipping through there, it was just amazing how fast that camera went through that set. And I was very leery about pulling the camera that quick.
Speed! DD did this great miniature shot, but Jim didn't think it was quite working when he first saw it until he rotated the shot in editing so that it was tilted, and that made all the difference.
For the jumps, when we had up to 40 people jumping off in one single shot, what everyone thinks is, oh, we had this ship and there was all this water and it was deep water. Actually, there was only a small area that people could actually jump. For most of the tank is only 3 foot deep. And we had a trough area that went out 20 feet from the side of the ship.
And background and action!
We had either dummies floating in the water with their life jackets on, or we had deck chairs made of rubber, so people knew where they could jump. It was very important that when someone jumped, that wasn't the end of the shot. They needed to sort of swim to safety, so the next person could jump and there was no risk of anyone landing on top of anyone else.
Let's hear it for the stunt team, folks. Let's hear it for the stunt.
We're currently on the poop deck of the Titanic, and it's a section that's been made that can actually lift to 90 degrees. And so what we've got, 150 extras and 80 to 90 stunt people that we're just rehearsing on this section, just so we can get it to look very realistic. The idea is to create the illusion of danger, but having it safe.
There was a lot of safety parameters that went into it. They all had to be cabled, obviously. I had to make sure that everyone was wearing protective pads.
The worst thing that can happen here is that people are going to land on top of each other, so we've all got to be prepared and know exactly where everyone's intending to go before we start.
We put human-shaped dummies that were completely foam around certain objects that couldn't be made of rubber. Some of the stunt performers would carry these dummies down with them. We made a lot of things in the end out of rubber, or coated things in rubber or foam, so that people could actually hit things and bounce off. We did most of the tumbling down the deck at 25 degrees. That's where the stunt performers could still control to a degree where they went, and they wouldn't get really hard impact. The section that we were shooting over was over 400 feet long, and we basically had to get people from one end to the other end and make it look as though they were sliding very fast, and the ship was only at 6 degrees. We had to make it look as though people were at a 45-degree angle and sliding down the deck, and we had people on cables, weighted cables, and we'd made these very, very small like sleds or sledges with very small casters on. Once the cable pulled you, and it would pull you very, very fast, it would release. We'd had a release mechanism built into it. But then you could actually spin 360 degrees. It actually worked very well. Very early on in the prep of Titanic, I got together with Rob Legato, the visual effects supervisor, and we were going through sequences where it was impossible for stunt performers to actually do these things without seriously getting hurt.
When it was pitched up in the air like it was there, it's 300 feet in the air. A stuntman can't fall that far into water and not break his leg, and that became part of our mission, is to do these digital stunts, which are now very common, but back then were not very common.
We did lots of tests with Rob, like we had people fall off 40-foot or 60-foot rostrums into airbags.
We shot with 2 cameras and basically did our version of motion capture, which we called it roto capture.
He would then test it to see if he could use it for some digital stunt people falling down the set. At the end of shooting, we put on these black sort of like skin-tight suits with all these balls, and we did things like fall off 20-foot sections, hit rubber, mats, bounce, twist, somersault, and we were those CG guys, so to speak. But when we were doing the falls on the poop deck, which we only had 100-foot sections, some of those shots you're seeing a 200-foot section.
At some point, the connection with the rest of the ship, we would have to do sort of a digital set extension and a digital stunt extension for that.
So the falls would all start for real, and then CG guy would take over, because we would actually come to the end of our fall, or the end of our cable. I think the combination of the two worked out extremely well.